Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report, or maybe a product review. And today's video is going to be on the CAA MCK Chassis System for the Sig P320, and MCK stands for the Micro Conversion Kit. But before we get into the video, I of course want to thank all of my Patreons who do go a long way in making things here work at the Texas Gun Vault, as we are victims of the great YouTube firearms purge and demonetization. I also want to thank my good friend Jack, who lent this to the channel for review, and my newest sponsor, Brownworks Incorporated. If you're not familiar with who Brownworks is, they are a small company based out of Maryland that makes customized grips to discerning firearms owners. He can make anything from 1911 grips to Beretta 92 and a wide variety of other firearms, and he can make them out of any type of exotic wood, color them, finish them any way that you want, and most importantly, engrave any type of custom logo that you could possibly want. Every one of his grips are custom made to order and guaranteed for the best fit, finish, and quality. So please go check out his website. I will put a link in the description below, and I will pin a comment. Please go check out his website, especially if you are looking for high-end custom grips for your firearms. So with that said, let's talk about what the MCK Chassis System is. Essentially, it's designed to turn a pistol into a carbine type of firearm. But because this does have a pistol brace on the back, this is still technically a pistol. I do know that they offer an NFA version which would have a stock. Now, the idea of these conversion kits go back quite a long way. I know there's a couple of other companies that maybe you even know by name. These have always been kind of gimmicks to me. One of the things I always liked was the idea behind them, but I wasn't always a fan of the execution of them. I do have to say though, I do own a conversion kit myself, and maybe it's a gun that you have seen before. This is my Glock 24 that I have SBR'd, and this is in a B&T USW chassis. Now, one thing that I always liked about this particular conversion versus the others is that this is a very minimalist design. It doesn't really add a lot of weight and especially real estate to turn a pistol into a carbine. But when it comes to a chassis system like this, obviously this adds a lot of mass. And for some people that could be a pro or it could be a con. But that's essentially what this device does. So what do I like and not like about this particular system? Well, let's start off with the things that I like. Number one, I really do like the sturdiness of this. Now that I've gotten to hold one of these and see how they're installed in this system, I'm really impressed. This is extremely sturdy. The pistol inside of the chassis doesn't move at all. The construction seems to be well built, well thought out. I really like the controls. One of the things that they have added is a charging handle, which is ambi on both sides of the pistol, and that is achieved by adding a little plate that grabs on to the back of the pistol. That is really easy to actuate. Also, all of the other controls on the firearm are very easy to get to. Sometimes with the other chassis systems, depending on how the brace or the stock is set up, getting to that magazine catch can actually be a little bit tricky. But this is well thought out, and all the ergonomics of a standard pistol still come into play. I have to say that I also really like the aesthetics of this particular chassis system. I think it looks really neat. Kind of looks a little space age, maybe something out of a futuristic sci-fi movie. And for some people, that might be a turnoff. For me, I think it's actually a really positive thing. So overall, I can tell you from just handling it here on the table, I really like it. I think it is way more well thought out and designed than I had initially given it credit for. So now let's talk about the things I'm not really a big fan of. I've already kind of alluded to one of those. And one of those is, this is just a lot bigger. A pistol is designed to be really small. And I think when it comes to a pistol caliber carbine, especially one that you want to shoulder in some capacity, I really want to see something that's a little bit more minimalistic. I like the fact that they added this angled foregrip here to the front, but man, does it add a lot of mass to the front of it. And I kind of feel like your hand is a little bit too low. It definitely feels good, but it's just a little bit bigger than I would like. Something else that this does that I'm not a huge fan of, and some people think might not be a big deal at all, but one of the things that this chassis system does is put your fingers in front of the muzzle. Yes, you have this little faux barrel here in the front. The front of the pistol really comes to about right here. Now, because this is a standard pistol, this is just a tube. It doesn't add anything to the ballistics, and it does not contain the explosion of the propellant at all. So in the very unlikely case that you have some type of overpowered cartridge and some type of explosion that comes out of the end that you don't want, well, your hand is down here, and all of that gas is going to be coming down and in all directions. I'm not really a big fan of that. If this had a longer barrel, which contained all of the pressure all the way out to the end, I would feel a little bit safer. Now, I don't know of anybody that has had any problems with this. It is just one of my general rules that I do not want any part of my body, regardless of what type of firearm it is, what type of chassis system it is, what type of handguard it is, I never want any part of my body beyond the muzzle, even if it is behind a handguard or some other type of protection. That is just simply because once the projectile leaves the barrel and you have the release of all of that propellant, well, you're asking for danger just because that is the way physics, propellants, and explosions work. For me, it's just a slight safety issue. I don't think that's going to be a major issue in the long run. It's just one of those things that personally, I wish they could have changed in the design some way. Now, the last thing about this that I don't like is more of an ergonomic thing. It has to do with the side of the chassis when it comes down here to the right side of the trigger. For some reason, this side over here, you have a very large clearance, it's very smooth, and if you were a left-handed shooter, it wouldn't bother you at all. But as a right-handed shooter, this comes down quite far, and sometimes it will rub on my trigger finger a little bit, and that edge is a little bit sharp. It's not uncomfortably sharp, but you notice it after firing the gun a few times. So that's the only thing about this that ergonomically I don't like. So, with all of that said, you know what this does, you know my initial thoughts. Let's go to the range, let's put a magazine through this thing and see if this thing is as accurate as everybody says it is. Before I show you the footage, I do want to mention that I am using these aftermarket Sig P320 magazines that were provided by Jack. These are not OEM, and I can tell you I'm going to have some problems with them, which is to be expected by many aftermarket magazines. And this in no way detracts away from the quality of this particular chassis system or the Sig P320 at all. So when you see me have issues with failures to feed and failures to eject, it is all the magazine and should not be indicative of the quality of either the firearm itself or this chassis system. So with that said, let's go to the range and let's see how this thing shoots. All right, so holy moly, at 10 yards, this thing is a tack driver. I cannot believe how just having that third point of contact to stabilize the gun makes that much of a difference. I am really impressed with this thing. I also got to say that the recoil is a little bit more than what I was expecting. You definitely feel it coming back into your shoulder more than many other pistol caliber carbines. The last thing I noticed is that I couldn't tell when the slide locked open after the last round. You know, many times when you're shooting a gun, especially like an AR, it feels different when the slide or the bolt locks open. On this, I didn't feel it as much. Maybe I just wasn't prepared for it. So we'll have to see if my opinion on that changes as the range report goes on. But so far, I'm pretty happy with this performance. So let's double the distance. Let's go out to 20 yards. I'm going to go for the head on this IDPA target and see if this group opens up. But I have high hopes. This thing seems exceptionally accurate. So I have to tell you, this is one of those range reports where I take the gun to the range, and while I'm expecting to like it, I didn't know I would like it this much. I am really impressed with this thing. It is making this P320 exceptionally accurate, and I can definitely see the application of this chassis, especially as a home defense carbine. So this is almost in a way you can buy a pistol, buy the chassis system, and have both a pistol and a carbine with the same firearm. That is really cool and very interesting. I have to say that the gun is still exceptionally accurate. As you can see at 20 yards, yeah, the group opened up a little bit. I was expecting that. And you also noticed that I had an issue with the magazine, but I've already talked about that. That is not the chassis' fault, nor is it the gun's fault. It's just these aftermarket mags, which I know some people are going to ask me what they are. It is etsgroup.us is what these are labeled as. So I'm not really sure if these are US made or foreign made, but they're not the most reliable P320 mags I've ever shot. So let's give my wife Becky a shot at this thing. You know, she really likes pistol caliber carbines. Well, she likes most guns that come through the Texas Gun Vault, except the ones that really kick hard. And this one doesn't kick hard at all. It's just a little bit more snappy than I initially thought it would be, but it's extremely manageable. I would say that the recoil is more like an AR-15 chambered in 9mm versus like a B&T or an HK MP5. Those have a little bit more softer recoil impulse. This one, you definitely feel the reciprocation of the slide. But let's get this in her hands, see how she shoots it, and what she thinks. Well, she had a little bit of a magazine issue as well, but she said she really liked the concept of what this product does. It's really neat, especially for somebody that's not looking to spend a lot of money and have a lot of different guns, but you can have, as I mentioned, both a pistol and carbine kind of using the same fire control group. Now, she also said that the recoil in this was perfectly fine for her and it shot extremely well, as you saw from her grouping. So she kind of likes it. She thought it was a little bit on the big side. I think she prefers the B&T chassis just a little bit more just because it's a little bit smaller, but she said she liked it, it was comfortable, and it was, most importantly, a lot of fun. And that's what I think the main goal of this product is to create a fun little pistol caliber carbine out of your pistol for not a lot of money. So it's more than a range toy. I definitely see the application in self-defense, and we'll get to that in just a moment, but this thing is simply just fun to shoot. But speaking of using this in a defensive situation, I know that some people might want to set this up as a home defense gun. So I'm going to try a defensive use of this. I'm going to try to do double taps on multiple targets and see how accurate it is if I start to shoot this a little bit faster. Now, I am expecting to have some magazine troubles, so if I do, you know why, but as I said, it's not the chassis or the gun's fault. But let's see how this thing does when I try shooting this thing a little bit faster, and if I can shoot it accurately. So I have to say, as a home defense tool, this thing definitely is a force multiplier. It's really accurate, and with reliable magazines, this thing would be a very formidable force against a number of different intruders. I am really impressed with this item so far. Well, I want to try it again. Hopefully I won't have as many magazine issues. I'm going to try the other mag that Jack provided. I'm just going to load it to 10 rounds and try to hit each one of these 5 targets with 2 rounds apiece. So I'm going to give it another shot. Alright, so we're still having a few mag issues, but this is going to give me a chance to test the ergonomics of the gun and how fast I can do a magazine change. Because in a real self-defense scenario, you might need to change magazines, or who knows, you might have to clear a malfunction. So already knowing this gun is going to malfunction, I am going to load up 2 different magazines here. I'm going to shoot it as fast as I can, and when the malfunction happens, I'm going to see if ergonomically I can get that magazine to drop, reinsert the next magazine, clear the malfunction, and get the gun back in action. Because as I said, as a home defense tool, this is something that you may need to do. And hopefully the ergonomics of this, which as I said in the past, I really like, is I can get to that magazine button really easy to drop that mag. Well, I'm not really expecting to have any troubles, and I'm expecting to get this back in action relatively fast, but let's see how I do. Alright, so that was fast and easy. Man, I really like this thing. So what are my final thoughts on the MCK by CAA for the Sig P320? Well, first off, they make it for more guns than just the P320. I noticed on their website they do offer a Glock compatible version as well, and they do offer this in a number of different colors such as olive drab and flat dark earth. I think they also offer a gray. And besides a pistol brace, they do offer a stocked version as well. If you choose to SBR your pistol, you can make this into a real legal carbine. This thing offers a ton of options. It is a huge force multiplier, and the thing that I cannot get over is how accurate it makes the pistol. Pistols are inherently accurate, but man, when you get that third point of contact here on your shoulder, it really makes a huge difference. I cannot believe how effective this chassis system is with this pistol. Now, the only thing about this experience that I didn't like, of course, was the magazine, but I am not in any way going to fault the chassis system or the firearm for the fault of these magazines, as I mentioned. This whole thing surprised me from top to bottom. When Jack first showed it to me, I was like, okay, it's going to be my first bigger chassis system for a polymer striker fired gun that I've ever shot. I'm not super excited, but I think that some of my viewers would be interested in. But now that I've shot it, I'm like, wow, this thing is pretty darn cool. I definitely think it is worth the price. Now, I was looking online. I see these things in about the $250 range. Yeah, they're a little bit on the pricey side, but I think for everything you get, it is completely worth it. It is a force multiplier. So if you're not looking to own a dedicated pistol caliber carbine and want to go between a pistol and a carbine, this might be the way to go. Especially with a Sig P320, which is already a modular design as it is. I only have those couple of complaints, as I mentioned. For some reason, the frame right here goes down a little bit too low, kind of scratches my finger. I'm not a big fan of having any part of my body beyond the muzzle, even though it is inside of a handguard. It just kind of bothers me just a little bit, and I wish this was a little bit smaller. Maybe if the front portion of this was a little bit higher, I would like it a little bit more. But overall, the ergonomics are fantastic. The aesthetics, I like it. Space aged, as I said, accurate as all get out. I could not be happier with it in its performance. This thing has really surprised me. So, on my star system, how would I rate the micro conversion kit by CAA for the P320? Well, honestly, I gotta give this thing 5 out of 5 stars. It surprised me. I was expecting to like it. I was expecting it to work well. I didn't think I would enjoy it as much as I did. Now, will I buy one? Well, maybe not. I still think I like my B&T chassis just a little bit more. But I can see the validity, and I can see why this would be such a popular option for so many people. I am just blown away with its quality, its accuracy, and all the options that it has with all this Picatinny rail on the top and on both sides. It's pretty darn awesome, well thought out, and well designed. So there you go, my range report and product review of the MCK by CAA. What do you guys think? Do you own any of these pistol chassis systems? Do they work well for you? What do you think of the size? I'd love to know in the comments section below. So as always, thanks for watching.